I woke up in the hospital with a tube down my throat and no memory of how I got there. The ceiling was white. The lights were too bright. Someone was saying my name, but it sounded like they were underwater. I tried to move my hand and couldn't. There were wires everywhere. Machines beeped in rhythm with something inside my chest that didn't feel like my heart anymore. "Mr. Brennan, can you hear me?" I blinked. A nurse leaned over me, her face too close, her breath smelling like coffee and mint gum. "You're in County General. You collapsed at a work site. Do you remember?" I didn't. The last thing I remembered was standing in front of a half-finished building on the west side, clipboard in hand, checking load-bearing calculations. The contractor had cut corners. I was about to red tag the whole structure. Then nothing. "Your heart stopped," the nurse said. She had kind eyes, the type that had seen too much and still managed to care. "They got you back in the ambulance. You're lucky." "Lucky. Right." I tried to speak, but the tube blocked everything. She must have seen the panic in my eyes because she patted my shoulder. "The tube comes out tomorrow if everything looks good. Just rest." Rest. Like I had a choice. She left, and I stared at the ceiling. My phone was on the table next to me, face down. I could see the edge of the screen glowing. Someone had been calling. I couldn't reach it. The tube came out the next morning. My throat felt like I'd swallowed broken glass, but at least I could breathe without choking on plastic. The doctor was a tired-looking man in his 50s with gray hair and glasses that kept sliding down his nose. You had a cardiac episode," he said, flipping through my chart without looking at me. "Stress-induced, most likely. When was the last time you had a full physical?" 3 years ago. "That's too long. You're 52. You're not invincible." I didn't feel invincible. I felt like someone had taken a sledgehammer to my ribs and left me in a ditch. "We called your emergency contacts," he continued. "Your wife is on her way. She was out of state. Your parents, we left messages. They didn't come." It wasn't a question. I already knew. The doctor looked up for the first time. "We called 3 times, left detailed messages. I'm sorry." "Don't be." He frowned, but didn't push it. "You'll need to stay for observation. At least 2 more days. Then we'll talk about lifestyle changes, medication, follow-up appointments." He left. I reached for my phone. 74 missed calls, 63 text messages, 12 voicemails. None from my parents. I scrolled through the call log. My wife, Ellen, had called 16 times. My boss, Jim, had called 4. A few coworkers. One from the contractor whose site I'd been inspecting. Probably panicking about the red tag. Nothing from my family. I opened the messages. Ellen's were frantic, then reassuring, then logistical. She'd be there by tonight. She loved me. Everything would be okay. The others were work-related or generic well wishes from people I barely knew. Then I saw it. A notification from Instagram. My sister Monica had tagged me in a post. I opened the app. The photo showed my parents, my brother David, my sister Monica, and both their spouses gathered around a table at some upscale restaurant downtown. Everyone was smiling. Wine glasses raised. The caption read, "Family day without the drama. Never blessed family, doubt good vibes." The post was from yesterday, while I was unconscious in the ICU. I stared at the photo, my father's arm around my mother's shoulders, Monica laughing at something someone had said, David's wife holding up her glass like she was making a toast. They knew I was in the hospital. The doctors had called them. They'd gotten the messages, and they went out to eat. I put the phone face down on the table. I said nothing. Ellen arrived that night. She looked exhausted, her hair pulled back in a messy bun, her eyes red from crying or lack of sleep or both. She dropped her purse on the chair and came straight to the bed, wrapping her arms around me carefully like I might break. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry I wasn't here. You were working. I should have been here. You're here now." She pulled back and looked at me, really looked at me. Ellen had always been able to read me better than I could read myself. 27 years of marriage did that. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Besides the heart attack?" "Patrick." Her voice was firm. "What happened?" I handed her my phone. She looked at the screen, then at me, then back at the screen. Her expression didn't change, but I saw her jaw tighten. "They knew," I said. "I know. The hospital called them 3 times. I know." She set the phone down and sat on the edge of the bed. She didn't say anything for a long time. Ellen wasn't the type to fill silence with empty words. She thought before she spoke. It was one of the things I'd always loved about her. "What are you going to do?" she finally asked. "Nothing." "Patrick, I'm going to do nothing. They want me to disappear? Fine, I'm gone." She studied my face. "You're angry." "No, I'm done." There's a difference between anger and being finished. Anger burns hot and fades. Being done is cold and permanent. I'd been angry before, at my father's passive-aggressive comments, at my mother's selective memory, at Monica's endless drama, at David's entitled attitude. But this was different. This was clarity. Ellen nodded slowly. "Okay." "Okay? If you're done, you're done. I'm with you." That's why I married her. No questions, no guilt trips, just support. She stayed with me until visiting hours ended. We didn't talk much. We didn't need to. After she left, I lay in the dark and stared at the ceiling. The machines beeped. The IV dripped. Someone down the hall was moaning in pain. My phone buzzed. I ignored it. It buzzed again, and again, and again. I picked it up. 15 new calls, all from my father's number. 3 new text messages. The first one, "Call me." The second, "We need to talk." The third, "We need you. Answer immediately." I turned the phone face down and went to sleep. The next 2 days passed slowly. Ellen came back every morning and stayed until evening. We talked about small things, her work trip, the leak in the kitchen sink, whether we should finally replace the couch, normal things, safe things. The doctors ran more tests. Everything looked stable. My heart was damaged but functional. I'd need medication, lifestyle changes, regular checkups. I'd be fine, they said, if I avoided stress. I almost laughed. Ellen went home on the 3rd day to take care of some things. She'd be back to pick me up when I was discharged the next morning. I was alone when Monica showed up. I didn't hear her coming. One moment I was reading a book Ellen had brought me. The next moment she was standing in the doorway, perfectly styled hair, expensive purse, fake smile plastered on her face. "Patrick," she said, "thank God you're okay." I didn't look up from my book. She came in anyway, uninvited, and sat in the visitor's chair. "I know you're upset." "I'm not upset. You have every right to be. We should have been here sooner." "You shouldn't have been here at all." She blinked. "What?" I put the book down and looked at her. Really looked at her. Monica was 48 but could pass for 35. She spent more on her appearance in a month than most people spent on rent. Her husband, Greg, was a corporate lawyer who specialized in making problems disappear. They lived in a house with 6 bedrooms and no children. "The hospital called," I said. 3 times. You knew I was here." "We were." "We didn't know it was serious." My heart stopped. "We thought you were stable by the time we got the message." "And the family dinner?" Her smile flickered, just for a second. Then it was back, brighter than before. "That was a misunderstanding. We were already committed to that dinner. It was David's anniversary. We couldn't just cancel. You tagged me in the photo." I wasn't thinking. "You tagged me in a photo while I was unconscious in the ICU. You captioned it, 'Family Day without the drama.' Which part wasn't you thinking?" She leaned forward, her voice dropping to that concerned sister tone she used when she wanted something. "Patrick, I know how this looks, but you have to understand, things have been really stressful lately. David and I have been dealing with some complicated business matters, and Mom and Dad are going through their own stuff, and—" "Get out." She stopped mid-sentence. "What?" "Get out of my room." "Patrick, please, just listen." "I don't want to hear it. Get out." She stood up, her purse clutched to her chest like a shield. The fake concern was gone now, replaced with something colder. "You're being unreasonable." "I'm being clear. Leave." "We need to talk about something important. It's about Dad's property on Sterling Avenue. There's a development deal, and your name is—" "Leave. Now." She stared at me for a long moment. I could see her calculating, weighing her options, deciding whether to push harder or retreat. She chose retreat. "Fine," she said. "But this conversation isn't over. You're going to have to deal with this eventually." She left. I picked up my book and tried to read, but the words swam on the page. My hands were shaking, not from weakness, from something else entirely. They needed something from me. That's why Monica came. Not because I nearly died, not because she felt guilty, because they needed something. My phone was on the table, still face down, still buzzing occasionally. I left it there. Ellen picked me up the next morning. The discharge process took 3 hours of paperwork, medication instructions, and stern warnings from the doctor about stress management. I nodded at all the right times and signed all the forms. We drove home in silence. Ellen didn't ask about Monica's visit. She'd know about it eventually, but she was giving me space. Our house was a small 2-bedroom ranch in a quiet neighborhood on the east side. We'd bought it 15 years ago when the kids were still in college. Both of them had moved out years ago. Our son Jake was in Seattle working for a tech company. Our daughter Amy was in Boston finishing her medical residency. They'd both called while I was in the hospital. They'd both offered to fly home. I told them not to. Ellen helped me inside and got me settled on the couch. She brought me water, my medication, a blanket, the remote control. "I'm not an invalid," I said. "I know. Let me fuss for 5 minutes, then I'll leave you alone." She fussed for 10 minutes, then finally sat down next to me. "Monica came to see me," I said. "I figured. They need something about a property deal. My name is involved somehow." Ellen's expression darkened. "Did she say what?" "No. I kicked her out before she could explain." "Good." "She said I'd have to deal with it eventually." "Maybe, maybe not." I looked at her. "What do you mean?" She picked up her purse from where she'd dropped it by the door and pulled out a manila folder. "I made some calls while you were in the hospital. I wanted to know what was going on." "And?" "Your father owns a commercial property on Sterling Avenue. It's been in the family for years. He bought it in the 80s. About 6 months ago, David and Monica approached a development company about turning it into a mixed-use complex. Retail on the ground floor, condos above." "Why do they need me?" Ellen opened the folder and pulled out several printed documents. "Because your name is on the deed." I stared at her. "What?" "Your father added you to the deed 8 years ago." "Do you remember signing anything?" I thought back. 8 years ago. I'd been at their house for something. Christmas, maybe, or Thanksgiving. My father had asked me to sign some papers. He'd said it was for estate planning, making sure the property stayed in the family if anything happened to him. I'd signed without reading. "I remember," I said quietly. "The development company did their due diligence. They found your name on the deed. David and Monica can't move forward without your signature. They need you to approve the sale and transfer your portion of the ownership to them." "How much is the property worth?" Ellen looked down at the papers. "The development company is offering $3.2 million for the land. Your portion, as listed on the deed, is 25%. I did the math. $800,000. "They never mentioned this to me," I said. "No, they were probably planning to handle it quietly. Get you to sign something during a family dinner, make it seem like a formality. But then you ended up in the hospital and ruined their timeline." I leaned back against the couch. The pieces were falling into place. The family dinner without me. Monica's sudden visit. The desperate phone calls from my father. They didn't care that I'd almost died. They cared that I wasn't available to sign their paperwork. "What do you want to do?" Ellen asked. I looked at the papers in her hands. My name was right there, printed in black and white. Patrick Michael Brennan. 25% ownership of a property I'd forgotten I was even connected to. "I want to know everything," I said. Ellen spent the next 3 days gathering information. She was good at this, methodical, patient, thorough. She'd worked as a paralegal before we had kids, and even though she'd moved into nonprofit management years ago, she still knew how to dig through records like a professional. I stayed home and recovered. My chest still ached. The medication made me tired. I was supposed to be resting, avoiding stress, taking it easy. Instead, I sat at the kitchen table with Ellen's laptop and went through everything she'd found. The property on Sterling Avenue was a half-acre lot in a gentrifying neighborhood. My father had bought it in 1982 for $43,000. It was commercial zoned, sitting empty for years, except for a small parking lot he rented out to nearby businesses. In 2017, he'd added my name to the deed. Ellen found the paperwork. My signature was there, right next to a notary stamp. I barely remembered doing it. The development company was called North Point Urban Development. They specialized in mixed-use projects in mid-tier cities. They had a decent reputation, no major scandals, and a portfolio of completed projects that looked professional if generic. David and Monica had approached them 6 months ago. The proposal was standard: tear down the existing parking lot, build a 4-story building with retail space on the ground floor and condos above. Estimated completion time, 18 months. Estimated profit for the development company, significant. Estimated profit for my family, $3.2 million, split according to deed ownership, except I was supposed to get 25%, $800,000. And nobody had told me. Ellen came into the kitchen with a fresh pot of coffee. She poured me a cup and sat down across from me. "Find anything interesting?" she asked. "They've been planning this for months. Look at these emails." She'd managed to access some correspondence through a contact she had at the county clerk's office. Nothing illegal, just public records requests and properly filed paperwork. But the dates told a story. David had first contacted North Point in March. By April, they were negotiating terms. By May, they had a preliminary agreement. By June, they were ready to move forward. I'd never received a single phone call. "They were going to tell you eventually," Ellen said. "They had to, but they wanted everything locked down first. Probably figured they'd present it as a done deal and you'd just go along with it. And split the money 4 ways instead of 3. They might have offered you something, a token amount, enough to make it seem fair." I looked at the numbers again. If they split it 3 ways, my father, David, and Monica, they'd each get about $1 million. If they included me, the shares would be smaller. My father would get 50% as the primary owner. That's $1.6 million. The remaining $1.6 million would be split 3 ways if they excluded me. About $533,000 each for David and Monica. But if I was included, David and Monica would only get $400,000 each. They were willing to let me die over $133,000. "That's not even the worst part," Ellen said. "There's a worse part?" She pulled out another document. "The deed revision from 2017, the one your father had you sign. Look at the language." I scanned the page. Legal jargon, mostly. Property descriptions, ownership percentages, standard clauses about rights and responsibilities. Then I saw it. A clause buried in the middle of the second page. "He put me on the deed to get around estate taxes," I said slowly. "If he dies, the property gets split without going through probate. But if I die first, your share goes back to them. They get everything." I set the paper down. My hands were steady, but something cold was spreading through my chest. It wasn't anger. Anger would have been cleaner. This was something else. Something that felt like standing on the edge of a cliff and realizing the ground had been crumbling beneath you for years. "They weren't just ignoring me in the hospital," I said. "They were waiting to see if I'd die." Ellen didn't argue. She just looked at me with those steady brown eyes that had seen me through 2 decades of dealing with my family's casual cruelty. "What are you going to do?" she asked. I didn't answer right away. The coffee was going cold in my cup. Outside, a neighbor was mowing their lawn. Normal sounds, normal life. Everything continuing like the world hadn't just shifted on its axis. "I'm going to the county clerk's office," I said finally. "I want to see every document filed for this property in the last 10 years. Every revision, every permit application, every change of ownership form." "Why?" "Because if they lied about this, they lied about other things." Ellen nodded. "I'll come with you." "You don't have to." "I know. I'm coming anyway." The county clerk's office was in a squat brick building downtown, surrounded by parking meters and lawyer offices. We got there just after 9 in the morning. The clerk was a woman in her 60s named Patricia, who looked like she'd been working there since the building opened. "I need to see all public records for a property," I said, giving her the Sterling Avenue address. She typed it into her computer. "That's a lot of files. Going back how far?" 10 years. She raised an eyebrow, but didn't comment. "It'll take about 20 minutes to pull everything. There's a fee for copies." "That's fine." We sat in hard plastic chairs and waited. Ellen checked her phone. I stared at a poster on the wall about how to contest a property tax assessment. Patricia called us back to the counter. She had a thick folder filled with papers. "I can make you copies, or you can review them here and tell me what you need," she said. "I'll look first." She led us to a side room with a table and chairs. "Take your time. Let me know if you need anything." I opened the folder and started reading. Deeds, permits, tax assessments, zoning variance requests. Everything was there, organized by date. I found the 2017 deed revision right away. My signature, my father's signature, the notary stamp. Everything looked legitimate. Then I kept going back. 2015, a permit application for minor repairs to the parking lot surface. 2016, a zoning variance request to extend operating hours for the parking lot. 2017, a property tax appeal. 2018, another deed revision. I stopped. Ellen leaned over. "What?" I pulled out the 2008 document. It was a quitclaim deed transferring the property from my father's name into a family trust. The trust was listed as the Brennan Family Trust, established 2008. "Did you know about this?" Ellen asked. "No." I kept reading. The trust listed 4 beneficiaries: my father, my mother, David, and Monica. I wasn't included. But in 2017, my father had taken the property out of the trust and added my name to the deed directly. Why would he do that? Ellen asked. I thought about it. Tax reasons, probably. If the property is in a trust, selling it might trigger different tax consequences. But if it's in individual names, it's treated as a personal asset. So he added you to avoid paying more taxes. And to make it look like a family property split, more legitimate to the development company. I kept reading. The trust documents were attached to the 2008 deed, standard language about distribution of assets, trustee responsibilities, beneficiary rights. And then, at the bottom of the final page, I found something else. A clause about trust dissolution. If the trust was dissolved and assets were transferred to individual ownership, all beneficiaries had to be notified in writing within 30 days. I checked the 2017 deed revision date, March 15th, 2017. Ellen, I said, did David or Monica ever mention getting a notification about the trust being dissolved? I don't think so. Why? Because they were supposed to be notified. According to the trust documents, if my father transferred the property out of the trust, he had to tell everyone. Did he? I looked through the rest of the folder. No notification letters, no proof of mailing, nothing. I don't think he told anyone, I said slowly. I think he just moved the property, added my name, and hoped nobody would look too closely. Ellen sat back in her chair. If David and Monica don't know about the trust dissolution, then they don't know my name was added to the deed for legal reasons. They think my father just decided to include me out of fairness or family obligation. Which means they really do think you're taking money that should be theirs. I closed the folder. My hands were shaking again, but not from weakness. From understanding, my father had screwed all of us. He'd set up a trust without including me, then dissolved it without telling anyone, then added my name to the deed without explaining why. He'd created a situation where his children would fight over money they didn't understand, and he'd sit back and watch it happen, and when I almost died, he'd waited to see if it would solve itself. I need copies of all of this, I told Ellen. We left the clerk's office an hour later with 200 pages of documents and a receipt for $43 in copying fees. I felt like I'd just finished a marathon. Ellen drove us to a coffee shop near the house. She ordered for both of us, black coffee for me, a latte for her. We sat at a corner table where nobody could overhear. Walk me through it, she said. What exactly did you find? I spread out some of the key documents on the table between us. In 2008, my father put the Sterling Avenue property into a family trust. The beneficiaries were him, my mother, David, and Monica. I wasn't included. I don't know why. Maybe I was in disfavor that year, maybe he just forgot. Doesn't matter. Okay. The trust stayed active for 9 years. During that time, the property just sat there. Parking lot revenue, property taxes, nothing exciting. Right. Then in 2017, he dissolved the trust, took the property out and put it in his name directly, but added me as a co-owner. 25% for me, 75% for him. According to the trust documents, he was supposed to notify David and Monica that the trust was being dissolved, but there's no record of him doing that. So David and Monica still think the property is in the trust? I think they know it's not in the trust anymore, because they've been working with the development company and would have seen the deed. But I don't think they know why I was added. They probably think my father just decided to be generous, or fair, or whatever explanation makes sense to them. Ellen sipped her coffee. And the development company? They only care about clean title. They see the deed, see the names, confirm everyone is legally able to sign off. They don't care about family drama. But you care. I care that my father set this up deliberately. He put David and Monica in a position where they'd see me as stealing from them. He added me to the deed without explaining anything. He created this whole situation. Why? That was the question, wasn't it? Why would my father do this? I thought back over the years. My relationship with him had always been complicated. He was a stern man, ex-military, the kind of father who believed in discipline and hard work and never saying I love you out loud. We'd fought when I was younger, over my choice of career, over my choice of wife, over my choice to move away from the family neighborhood, but we'd settled into a kind of truce over the decades. Polite distance, holiday dinners, birthday cards, the kind of relationship where you show up because it's expected, not because you want to. Had he resented me all this time? Had he been planning some kind of payback for old grievances? Or had he just been careless, making financial decisions without thinking about the emotional fallout? I didn't know, and that was the worst part. I couldn't figure out if this was malice or neglect. I need to talk to him, I said. Ellen shook her head. You're not ready. I'm fine. Your heart stopped 2 weeks ago. You're on medication. You're supposed to be avoiding stress. This is important. Patrick. She put her hand over mine. I know you want answers, but if you go to him now, angry and unprepared, he's going to turn it around on you. He's good at that. You know he is. She was right. My father had spent decades perfecting the art of making other people feel crazy. He'd twist facts, misremember conversations, rewrite history until you weren't sure what was real anymore. So, what do? I asked. You wait, you gather more information, you figure out exactly what you're dealing with, then you decide how to handle it. And in the meantime, they're calling me every day trying to get me to sign their paperwork. Let them call. You don't owe them anything. I looked down at the documents spread across the table. My name on a deed I didn't remember signing. A trust I was never part of. A family that only wanted me when I was useful. I want to hurt them, I said quietly. Ellen didn't flinch. I know. Not physically, but I want them to feel what I felt in that hospital bed. I want them to understand what they did. Then we'll figure out how. She said it simply, like we were planning a vacation or deciding what to have for dinner. No moral objections, no lectures about being the bigger person. That's why I'd married her. We went home, and I spent the rest of the day reading through the copied documents again, making notes, building a timeline. Ellen ordered takeout for dinner, and we ate in front of the TV, not really watching whatever was on. My phone kept buzzing. I turned off the ringer, but left notifications on. I wanted to see how persistent they'd be. 15 calls that day, 8 from my father, 4 from Monica, 3 from David, 0 voicemails. They knew I wasn't going to listen. That night, lying in bed, Ellen asked, "What do you think they'll do if you just refuse to sign?" "They can't do anything. They need my signature to move forward." "They could try to pressure you, show up at the house, make scenes." "Let them." "They could try legal action, contest the deed, claim you're not mentally competent." "I'm a structural safety inspector who just survived a heart attack. I'm sharp enough to do my job. They'd lose." "They could offer you money, try to buy you out." "I don't want their money." "Then what do you want?" I thought about it. What did I want? I wanted them to acknowledge what they'd done. I wanted them to admit they'd left me to die because I was inconvenient. I wanted them to feel the weight of their choices. But more than that, I wanted them to understand that I wasn't going to disappear quietly. I wasn't going to be erased from the family story like I'd never mattered. "I want them to know I see them," I said finally. "I want them to know I understand exactly what they are." Ellen turned off her bedside lamp. In the darkness, she said, "Then show them." The neighborhood meeting happened on a Tuesday night in the basement of a local church. I didn't plan to go, but Ellen convinced me. "You should see what you started," she said. We arrived at 7. The room was packed, at least 50 people, maybe more. Vincent from the pizza shop was there, the owner of the dry cleaner, a few younger people I didn't recognize, a woman in her 70s who looked like she'd been living in the neighborhood since it was built. Someone had set up a projector with a presentation about the Sterling Avenue development. Someone else had printed flyers about zoning laws and community rights. There were clipboards being passed around for signatures. Ellen and I sat in the back. Nobody paid attention to us. The meeting started with a woman named Karen, who introduced herself as the president of the neighborhood association. She talked about the importance of community input, the right to be heard, the need to preserve the character of the neighborhood. Then she showed the development plans: 4 stories, 24 condos, 3 retail spaces, parking for 32 vehicles. The room erupted. 32 spaces for 27 units plus retail? Someone shouted. Where's everyone else supposed to park? The traffic on Sterling is already terrible, someone else said. This is going to make it impossible. What kind of retail? A man asked. Are we talking local businesses or corporate chains? Karen didn't have answers. Nobody did. The information was limited to what was publicly available in the permit application. But people didn't care. They were angry. They felt excluded, ignored, steamrolled by a development company that didn't care about their concerns. Vincent stood up. We need to file objections. Formal objections. Make them address every single issue. Someone already did, Karen said. I saw the county records. There are 14 separate objections filed by a lawyer representing neighborhood residents. People started talking over each other. Who filed them? What were the objections? How could they help? Ellen leaned over and whispered, You did this. I didn't do anything. They did this. You gave them the ammunition. She was right. I hadn't organized the meeting. Hadn't started the petition, hadn't rallied the community, but I'd pointed them in the right direction, and they'd run with it. The meeting went on for another hour. People volunteered to write letters to the county council, to contact local media, to spread the word on social media. Someone suggested setting up a fund to hire an environmental lawyer. Someone else proposed organizing a protest. By the time the meeting ended, there was a full-blown community movement. Ellen and I slipped out before anyone could ask our names. 3 days later, Monica showed up at my house again. I was in the garage working on the lawnmower when I heard her car pull into the driveway. I recognized the sound of her engine, a BMW sedan that cost more than most people's annual salary. I didn't go inside. I just kept working on the mower, cleaning the carburetor, pretending I hadn't heard her. She came into the garage anyway. "Patrick," she said, "we need to talk." "Busy. This is important." "So is getting this mower running before the grass gets out of control." She stood there for a moment, clearly debating whether to push harder or retreat. She chose to push. "The Sterling Avenue project is falling apart," she said, "because of some community opposition that came out of nowhere. That's unfortunate. 14 separate objections, filed by a lawyer, all of them targeting technical issues with the plans. Sounds like legitimate concerns. It's sabotage." I looked up from the mower. "Sabotage?" "Someone with technical knowledge. Someone who knows how to manipulate the system. You think I'm behind it." "Are you?" "No." "I don't believe you." I shrugged and went back to the carburetor. "Believe what you want." "Patrick, this is serious. North Point is threatening to walk away. If they do, we lose everything. All the time, all the money we've invested, all the planning. Gone. Maybe you should have included me in the planning from the beginning. We tried to reach you. You wouldn't answer your phone." My heart stopped. "And they restarted it. You're fine now." I set down the wrench and stood up. Monica took a step back. "Good instinct." "Let me make something very clear," I said quietly. "I did not file those objections. I did not organize the neighborhood association. I did not start the petition or the Facebook group or the community meeting. Those people did that on their own because they don't want your generic luxury condos ruining their neighborhood. But you could stop it." "How?" "Sign off on the deal. Once we have your signature, we can push through the objections. Argue that the community is being unreasonable, that the project meets all the requirements, that the opposition is coming from a vocal minority. And if I don't sign, then the project dies, and you lose your share of the money. I'm willing to live with that." She stared at me. "You're really going to do this? You're going to destroy a $3 million deal because you're angry about a hospital visit?" "I'm not angry about a hospital visit. I'm angry about a lifetime of being treated like I don't matter. The hospital visit was just the clearest example. That's not fair." "Fair? You want to talk about fair? You tagged me in a photo making fun of me while I was unconscious. You offered me $200,000 for a share worth $800,000. You showed up here asking me to sign paperwork without even apologizing for abandoning me." "I did apologize. In the letter." "You apologized for lack of communication. That's not the same thing." She took a breath, visibly trying to control herself. "What do you want, Patrick? Money? A bigger cut? An apology? Tell me what you want, and let's make this work." "I want you to leave. Patrick, get out of my garage. Get off my property. Don't come back." She opened her mouth to argue, then thought better of it. She turned and walked back to her car. I heard the engine start, heard her back out of the driveway too fast, heard her tires squeal as she drove away. Ellen came out of the house a moment later. "I was watching from the window," she said. "You okay?" "I'm fine." "You handled that well." "Did I?" "You didn't hit her. That's handling it well by my standards." I laughed despite myself. Ellen came over and put her arms around me. "They're going to escalate. You know that, right?" "I know. Are you ready?" I thought about it. Was I ready? Ready for my father to show up, probably. Ready for David to try some legal maneuver. Ready for the whole family to turn against me and make me the villain. Yeah, I was ready. "I'm ready," I told Ellen. The escalation came 2 days later in the form of a certified letter delivered to my door. I signed for it and opened it at the kitchen table. Ellen stood behind me, reading over my shoulder. It was from a law firm. Bentley Wade and Associates, corporate lawyers out of Columbus. "To Patrick Michael Brennan," it began, We represent North Point Urban Development in the matter of the Sterling Avenue Property Development Project. It has come to our attention that you are one of several owners listed on the deed for the property in question, and that your refusal to sign the necessary transfer documents is preventing the project from moving forward. I kept reading. Our clients have invested significant time and resources into this project in good faith, based on assurances from the other property owners that all necessary signatures would be obtained. Your continued refusal to sign is causing substantial financial harm to our clients. The letter went on for 2 pages. Legal language. Threats disguised as professional courtesy. A demand that I either sign the documents or provide a detailed written explanation for my refusal. At the bottom, please respond within 10 business days. Failure to respond may result in legal action to compel your cooperation. I set the letter down. They're threatening to sue you, Ellen said. They're threatening to try. Can they win? No, I own the property. They can't force me to sell, but they can make my life miserable with legal fees and court appearances. How much would it cost to fight them? Depends how far they're willing to take it. Could be 10,000, could be 50,000. Ellen sat down across from me. We have savings. I know. And I'll support whatever you decide. But I need to know, are you doing this just to hurt them? Or is there an end game? Good question. Was I just being petty? Was I just lashing out because I was hurt and angry? Maybe. Probably. But it felt like more than that. It felt like standing up, like drawing a line, like saying no to decades of being treated as less important, less valuable, less worthy of consideration. I want them to understand, I said finally. I want them to feel what it's like to need something and have it denied. I want them to realize that they can't just use people and throw them away. And when they realize that, then maybe we can talk on equal terms, without me being expected to just go along with whatever they want. Ellen nodded slowly. Okay, then we fight. I picked up the letter from the law firm. I need to respond to this. You need a lawyer. Tom can handle it. Can he? This is corporate law. He does land use. He can refer me to someone if he can't. I called Tom that afternoon. He listened to me read the letter, asked a few questions, then said he'd look into it and call me back. He called back 3 hours later. They're bluffing, he said. They have no legal grounds to force you to sell. Property rights are absolute in this state. The only way they could compel you is if there was a previous contract or agreement obligating you to sign, and there isn't. So I just ignore the letter? No. You respond, but you call their bluff. I'll draft something for you. Basic refusal on grounds of property rights. Polite but firm. And if they sue anyway? Then we fight it and win. But I doubt it'll get that far. This is just pressure. They're hoping you'll cave. I'm not going to cave. I figured. I'll have a response drafted by tomorrow. We hung up. I sat at the kitchen table and looked at the letter again. 10 business days to respond. 2 pages of threats and legal jargon, all because I wouldn't play along. Ellen was right. This was escalating, but I was ready. When Kibble came on that weekend, David called me. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. I listened to it on speaker while Ellen made dinner. Patrick, it's David. We need to talk. I know you're upset about the hospital thing, and I get it. But this has gone too far. You're costing us all money. You're holding up a legitimate business deal. This isn't just about you anymore. It's about the family. So call me back. Please, let's work this out. Ellen looked at me from the stove. Are you going to call him? No. He said please. He can say please all he wants. He still didn't show up at the hospital. She came over and sat down next to me. What do you think he wants? Same thing Monica wanted, my signature. What if he offers you more money? I don't want more money. What if he apologizes? I thought about that. Would an apology change anything? Would it make me feel better? Would it fix the fundamental problem that my family only valued me when I was useful? It depends, I said finally. On what? On whether he means it, on whether he's apologizing because he's sorry or because he wants something. You'll know which one it is. Will I? She squeezed my hand. You always know. You just don't always trust yourself. Tom's response letter went out on Monday. It was short, polite, and completely uncompromising. Mr. Brennan is under no legal obligation to sign documents related to the sale of property he co-owns. He is exercising his legal rights as a property owner. Any attempt to compel his signature through litigation will be vigorously defended and is likely to fail. Mr. Brennan remains open to discussions, but will not be pressured into decisions he has not freely chosen to make. I approved it, and Tom sent it off to Bentley, Wade, and Associates. We didn't hear back, but I kept getting calls. My father called twice a day. Monica called once a day. David called every few days. I didn't answer any of them. On Thursday, my mother called. I almost didn't answer that one either. But Ellen was watching, and something in her expression made me pick up. Hello? Patrick. My mother's voice was quiet, uncertain. It's Mom. I know. I just wanted to check in. See how you're doing. I'm fine. Your father says you're refusing to sign some papers about the Sterling Avenue property. That's right. Can I ask why? Because I don't want to. But it would help the family. Would it? She didn't answer right away. I could hear her breathing on the other end of the line, gathering courage or formulating words or both. Patrick, she said finally, I know you're angry about the hospital, about us not being there. I'm not angry, Mom. I'm done. Done? Done pretending we're a functional family. Done pretending it doesn't matter that nobody showed up when I almost died. Done letting you all treat me like I'm only valuable when you need something. That's not fair. Isn't it? When was the last time any of you called just to talk? When was the last time you asked how I was doing without wanting something? Silence. Exactly, I said. We're family, she said quietly. Family is supposed to forgive each other. Family is supposed to show up for each other. You didn't. Your father said you were stable. And you believed him without checking, without calling the hospital yourself, without even sending a card. I'm sorry. The words hung in the air. I'm sorry. 2 words that should have meant something but felt empty. Are you? I asked. Yes. Sorry that you didn't come, or sorry that I'm making trouble now? Another silence. I thought so, I said and hung up. Ellen came over and wrapped her arms around me from behind. That was hard. It needed to happen. I know, but it was still hard. She was right. It was hard. Hanging up on my mother felt wrong in a deep, primal way. You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to respect your parents, honor them, forgive them when they fail you. But what happens when they keep failing you? When forgiveness just becomes permission to be hurt again? I didn't have an answer. The next morning, I got a call from Jim at work. Patrick, can you come to my office? I went. Jim was at his desk, looking uncomfortable. What's up? I asked. I got a call this morning from someone at a law firm. Bentley, Wade & Associates. They were asking about you. My stomach tightened. What did they ask? Whether you were currently employed here, what your position was, whether you'd been disciplined recently. Standard background check stuff. I told them you were a structural inspector in good standing, and that was it. Thanks. Patrick, what's going on? Are you in some kind of legal trouble? Family dispute. Property issue. Nothing criminal. Does it affect your work here? No, it's completely separate. Jim studied me for a moment. Okay, but if it becomes a problem, you need to tell me. I can't have county employees involved in lawsuits that might compromise their work. It won't come to that. You sure? I'm sure. He nodded, but he didn't look convinced. All right, get back to work. I left his office feeling uneasy. They were checking up on me, looking for ammunition, trying to find some way to pressure me. I called Tom. They contacted my boss, I told him. Asked about my employment status. That's intimidation tactics, trying to make you worried about your job. Is my job at risk? Not unless this becomes a criminal matter, which it won't. They're just fishing. What should I do? Nothing. They're testing to see if you'll crack. Don't give them the satisfaction. I hung up and tried to focus on work. Tried to review building plans and inspection reports and code compliance checklists. But my mind kept wandering. They were escalating. Pressure from family, pressure from lawyers, now pressure at work. They were trying to make me feel cornered, isolated, vulnerable. But I wasn't alone. I had Ellen. I had Tom. I had Amy and Jake, who were both checking in regularly now that they knew what was happening. I had people who actually cared about me. That was more than my family could say. On Saturday, Ellen and I went to the farmer's market downtown. We needed vegetables, and she wanted fresh bread from a bakery she liked. Normal weekend stuff. A break from the chaos. We were standing at a produce stand examining tomatoes when I heard someone say my name. I turned around. My father was standing 10 feet away, holding a paper bag of something, staring at me. We hadn't seen each other in person since I'd walked out of his house weeks ago. He looked older than I remembered. Grayer, thinner, tired. Ellen tensed next to me. Patrick, my father said, can we talk? I don't think there's anything to talk about. Please, just 5 minutes. People were starting to stare. The farmer's market was crowded, full of families and couples and people just trying to buy groceries. This wasn't the place for a confrontation. Ellen squeezed my hand. It's your call. I looked at my father. He looked back at me. For a moment, I saw something in his face that might have been regret, or exhaustion, or just resignation. 5 minutes, I said. We walked to a bench at the edge of the market. Ellen stayed with the produce stand, giving us space but keeping an eye on things. My father sat down heavily. I stayed standing. I'm sorry, he said. I didn't respond. I'm sorry we didn't come to the hospital. I'm sorry about the dinner. I'm sorry about all of it. Are you sorry it happened, or sorry I'm not playing along? He flinched. That's not fair. Life's not fair. You taught me that. Patrick, I know I made mistakes. I know I should have handled things differently, but you're my son. I don't want to lose you over money. This isn't about money. Then what is it about? It's about respect. It's about being treated like a human being instead of a problem to be managed. You added my name to a deed without telling me what it meant. You used me for tax purposes and then expected me to just sign away my rights when it was convenient. You let me lie in a hospital bed wondering if I was going to die, and you went out to dinner. We thought you were stable. You didn't think anything. You didn't call to check. You didn't ask the doctors for updates. You just assumed it would be fine and went on with your day. He looked down at his hands. You're right. I should have been there. You should have been there. Monica should have been there. David should have been there. Mom should have been there. But nobody came. Because I wasn't important enough. You are important. Then prove it. Show me I'm important when you don't need something from me. He looked up at me. What do you want me to do? Nothing. It's too late. It's never too late. It is for me. I stood up. He stayed sitting, looking up at me with something that might have been desperation. Patrick, please, don't throw away our relationship over this. I'm not throwing it away. You already did that. I walked back to Ellen. She took my hand, and we left the market without looking back. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the conversation with my father, the way he'd looked at me, the apology that had sounded genuine but probably wasn't. Ellen was asleep next to me, breathing softly. I got up and went to the kitchen, made coffee even though it was 2 a.m. I sat at the table and looked at my phone. 87 missed calls now. 56 from my father alone. I could end this. I could sign the papers, take whatever money they offered, move on with my life. Pretend it never happened. Pretend we were still a family. But I couldn't. I physically couldn't make myself do it. Because if I did, I'd be telling them it was okay. That they could treat me however they wanted, and I'd still come through for them. That my feelings didn't matter, and I was done with that. I'd spent 52 years being the reasonable one, the reliable one, the one who showed up and did his job and didn't make waves. Where had that gotten me? Lying in a hospital bed alone, wondering if anyone would notice if I died. I finished my coffee and went back to bed. Ellen stirred as I got under the covers. You okay? She murmured. I'm okay. You sure? I'm sure. She rolled over and draped an arm across my chest. I love you. I love you too. I closed my eyes and tried to sleep. The lawsuit came 3 weeks later. I'd been expecting it, but it was still jarring to be served papers at work. The process server showed up during my lunch break, handed me an envelope, and left without saying a word. I opened it in my truck. Complaint for declaratory judgment and injunctive relief. The cover page read, North Point Urban Development LLC versus Patrick Michael Brennan. I called Tom immediately. They filed, I told him. I'm not surprised. What are they claiming? Hang on, I'm reading. I skimmed through the legal jargon. They're saying I'm acting in bad faith, that I have no legitimate reason to refuse the sale, that I'm causing irreparable harm to their business interests. They want the court to either compel my signature or remove me as a co-owner. Can they do that? Not easily, but they can try. Property disputes can get messy. What do I do? You file a response. I'll draft it. We'll argue that you have absolute property rights and can refuse the sale for any reason or no reason at all. Then we wait for a hearing date. How long? Could be months. The courts are backed up. And in the meantime? In the meantime, the project stays frozen. I hung up and sat in my truck, staring at the lawsuit. They'd actually done it. They'd sued their own family member over a business deal. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Not anger, not even surprise. Just clarity. This was who they were. This was who they'd always been. I just hadn't wanted to see it. Ellen took the news calmly when I got home that evening. So, they're suing you, she said. Yes. Over a property you legally own. Yes. That's insane. That's family. She laughed bitterly. Some family. We sat on the couch together. Ellen had made dinner, pasta with marinara sauce, simple but good. We ate in silence for a while. Are you scared? She asked finally. Of what? Losing. Having to pay legal fees, all of it. No. Tom says we'll win, and even if we don't, we have savings. We'll be okay. But you're worried about something. She knew me too well. I'm worried about what comes after, I admitted. When this is over, when the lawsuit is settled, when the project either happens or doesn't. What then? Do I just never talk to them again? Do I show up at Christmas and pretend everything is fine? Do I wait for them to apologize, knowing they probably never will? Ellen set down her fork. You don't have to decide that now. I know, but I can't stop thinking about it. Then think about it. Just don't let it consume you. Good advice. Hard to follow, but good. The neighborhood opposition was picking up steam. The Facebook group now had over 300 members. The petition had nearly 500 signatures. Someone had organized a letter-writing campaign to the city council. Vincent from the pizza shop called me one afternoon. Patrick, he said. It's Vincent, from Vinny's Pizza. Hey, Vincent, what's up? I wanted to let you know. We're organizing a protest. Next Saturday in front of the Sterling Avenue property. We're calling it Save Our Neighborhood. You should come. I don't know if that's a good idea. Why not? You live in the area, right? You care about the community. I do, but I'm in the middle of some personal stuff right now. Well, the offer stands. We'd love to have you there. The more people, the better. I told him I'd think about it and hung up. Ellen had been listening from the kitchen. You should go, she said. To the protest? Yes. Why? Because you started this. You might as well see it through. I didn't start it. They did it on their own. You gave them the tools. Now watch what they build. I thought about it. Part of me wanted to stay away, keep my distance, avoid being directly involved. But Ellen was right. I'd set this in motion. I should at least see what happened. Okay, I said. I'll go. Saturday was cold and overcast. Perfect protest weather. Ellen and I drove to Sterling Avenue and parked a block away. We walked up and found maybe 80 people gathered in front of my father's property. Someone had made signs. No more luxury condos. Preserve our neighborhood. Community over profit. Vincent saw me and waved. Patrick, you made it. I nodded and stood at the edge of the crowd. Ellen stayed next to me, observing. Someone had set up a microphone. Karen from the neighborhood association was speaking, talking about property values and traffic concerns and the importance of community input. People cheered at the right moments. Then Vincent took the mic. He talked about his pizza shop, about the neighborhood he'd called home for 30 years, about how these developments erased character and replaced it with generic luxury. We're not against progress, he said. We're against being erased. We're against being told our concerns don't matter. We're against developers who see our neighborhood as nothing but a profit opportunity. More cheers. I looked around at the crowd. These were real people with real concerns. They weren't just obstacles to be managed or obstacles to be overcome. They were residents who cared about their community, and I'd weaponized them. Ellen must have seen something in my face because she squeezed my hand. Having second thoughts? She asked quietly. No, just thinking. About what? About whether I'm any better than them. She looked at me. You didn't lie to these people. You didn't manipulate them. You gave them information, and they made their own choices. I used them. You shared the truth. There's a difference. Was there? I wasn't sure anymore. The protest went on for another hour. People chanted, held signs, took photos for social media. A local news van showed up and interviewed some of the organizers. Karen gave a statement about community rights and responsible development. Nobody interviewed me. Nobody knew I was there. I was just another concerned citizen, invisible in the crowd. We left before it ended. On the drive home, Ellen asked, Do you regret it? The protest? All of it. Fighting back, refusing to sign, everything. I thought about it. Did I regret it? My family was suing me. My father wasn't speaking to me. I'd spent thousands of dollars on legal fees. I'd turned my own neighborhood into a battleground, but I wasn't lying in a hospital bed wondering if anyone cared whether I lived or died. No, I said. I don't regret it. The hearing for the lawsuit was scheduled for mid-November. Tom filed our response arguing that I had absolute property rights and couldn't be compelled to sell. North Point's lawyers filed a counter-response claiming I was acting in bad faith and causing unreasonable harm. The judge would decide. In the meantime, life continued. I went to work. I came home. I had dinner with Ellen. I called Amy and Jake every week. Normal life, except for the legal papers piling up on my kitchen table. Monica tried calling one more time. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Patrick, this is insane. We're family. We shouldn't be fighting like this. Just call me. Please. Let's work this out before it goes to court. I deleted the message. David sent a text. This is your last chance to settle before the hearing. We're offering $300,000 for your share. Take it or leave it. I left it unread. My father sent a letter. Actual handwritten letter delivered by mail. Patrick, it said, I know we've had our differences, but I never thought it would come to this. I never thought you'd actually take us to court. Whatever I did to hurt you, I'm sorry. But please, don't destroy the family over money. We can fix this if you'll just talk to me. I threw the letter away without finishing it. Ellen watched me from across the kitchen. You're getting colder. Is that bad? I don't know. You tell me. I didn't have an answer. The night before the hearing, I couldn't sleep again. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about what would happen tomorrow. The judge would hear both sides. North Point would argue I was being unreasonable. Tom would argue I had every legal right to refuse, and somewhere in that courtroom would be my family, hoping I'd lose. Ellen rolled over and looked at me. Talk to me. I don't know what to say. Say what you're feeling. I'm feeling like I'm about to blow up my entire family over a piece of property I don't even care about. Do you want to stop? No. Then why does it feel wrong? Because they're still my family. Despite everything, they're still the people I grew up with. The people who were there for birthdays and holidays and graduations. They're still my parents, my siblings, my history. But they're also the people who left you to die. I know. So which matters more? I didn't answer. Ellen sat up and turned on the lamp. Patrick, listen to me. You're allowed to grieve the family you thought you had while fighting the family you actually have. Those two things can exist at the same time. Can they? They have to, because the alternative is pretending everything is fine when it's not, and you're done pretending. She was right. I was done pretending. I'd spent my whole life being the reasonable one, the reliable one, the one who kept the peace, and it had gotten me nowhere except a hospital bed with no visitors. Maybe it was time to be the unreasonable one. Tomorrow, I said. What do you think will happen? I think you'll walk into that courtroom and they'll see you're not backing down and they'll realize they've lost. And if they don't, then the judge will tell them what you've been trying to say all along, that you don't owe them anything. I hoped she was right.